Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, no matter what time it is. I hope that you, my friends, are having an amazing day. My name is Carl Froing. I'm the CEO and broker for Kenneth James Realty. And today, we're going to talk about a taboo subject, something that nobody else wants to talk about. It is the elephant in the room, and that is commissions. So before I get sued, a couple things. Number one, if you're a consumer, understand that all of the commissions in real estate are negotiable. You can go out and negotiate that. It could be $1. You might pay $500. You might pay a percentage. You might pay $10,000. You might pay $500,000, right? So understand that all of those commissions are negotiable. And so please, when you're talking with your real estate agent, understand that. Don't sue me. Number two, I can't mention who the NAR is, but I'm assuming if you're watching this, you understand who NAR is, and that they're getting sued right now by the Department of Justice for this exact system, for the antiquated system that we've been paying agents in the real estate industry for a very, very long time. A little bit of history. So, many years ago, many moons ago, we used to pay agents from the seller only. All of the agents worked for the seller. Now, at some point that fragmented, and we had something called subagents. Now, in a few markets, I know that subagents are still allowed. A subagent would be where a competing agent from another brokerage would work for the listing company as a subagent of that company during this transaction. Okay, and that's a really antiquated system. But today, and presently, this is more commonly how people get paid. If you're a consumer, this is important. Right now, the seller is paying the listing agent, right? So seller pays the listing agent X percentage or X dollar amount. It might be a flat fee, it might be a percentage, all negotiable. And then at that point, what happens is when the seller's listing agent goes into the MLS and lists that property, there is a field called compensation. That field of compensation is generally an average in a market. I will tell you, it is an average, okay? Doesn't mean it could be $1, it could be 10%, it could be 5%, it could be 2%, it could be whatever it is. It doesn't matter, right? But it's not really negotiable. And here's what happens, and here's where the system kind of fragments and breaks. Let's say that, house number one pays one widget, okay? And I can't say what a widget is, but you can be very creative and say what a widget is. One widget. I go to the very next house with a similar criteria, and maybe that pays 3 widgets, right? As a buyer's agent, and you see this in the MLS, and up until today, matter of fact, I'm a member of 9 boards, 9 real estate MLSs, and today RE Colorado was the first one that I've seen, one that I actually belong to, publicly publish all of the compensation to the buyer's agent. So this will bring a little bit more transparency into this world, okay? So understanding that, if the buyer's looking at it and say house number one is only paying 1 widget, but house number 2 is paying 3 widgets, and for some reason, the broker doesn't want to show house number 1, they only want to show house number 2 because they get compensated more. Does that happen? Yes. I'm going to tell you unequivocally that happens. There are agents out there in the business for the wrong reason, and what they want to do is get the maximum compensation, and they're not looking out for the buyer's best interest. And they will refuse to show house number 1 because the compensation is below their standard. And they're afraid to ask the buyer to come in with a balance. Okay, this is a massive problem. And this has been happening for a long time. This has been happening basically since the advent of this system. And so there's an incentive to not show homes. That is not fair. Okay, and I can tell you that I don't do it, and if I catch anybody in my firm ever doing that, or if they're in the business for the wrong reasons, like money only, you are fired, right? You will get fired immediately, and I have zero tolerance for agents that pull that. Okay, so here's what I think is going to happen in the near future. Now, this could be 5 years, it could be 10 years, it could be 50 years. I think it's going to happen sooner than later, especially when buyers start figuring out, hey, I'm not getting shown certain properties, what's up? And then they look at the compensation and be like, that one only pays 1 widget, now I know what's up, right? So the gig is up, right? Like the information is going into the consumer's hand. You are no longer the gateway under lock and key for that information. Very important to understand. What does the future look like? Here's my guesstimation, is that the seller is going to continue to pay the listing agent. That makes sense. It's very easy to do. If the house has equity in it, they can subtract the commission out of the equity. The seller doesn't need to write a check at closing. If they don't have equity, they might have to write a check. Understanding in this market in 2021, it's towards the end of 2021, most homes have equity in them, right? Not an issue. Here's where some of the issues come. But this is going to get solved. But there's 4 parties that can help solve this problem. What I think is going to happen is eventually the buyer is going to pay the buyer's agent directly. Now that could be a percentage, it could be hourly, it could be per transaction, or a combination of all 3, and understand that that would be negotiable, right? And so that truly solves the problem of a free market where agents would compete against each other for buyers' businesses. And understand that you'd have to add a lot of value, right? So as a buyer's agent, you're going to have to be a better negotiator, right? Because you're gonna have to add value to the transaction. You're gonna have better local knowledge. And by the way, I know agents that specialize in one building, right? So like they only sell in one building. Why would you not go to that agent? They know everything about the HOA, they know everything about selling in that property, they know everything about the views and the location. That would make a lot of sense. And a lot of you that are worried about your commissions going away as a buyer's agent need to pick up on these skills. You can also charge for transaction management. Now, I'm licensed in Colorado, Florida, and Arizona. Now, Colorado and Florida have state-specific forms that the government has actually come out and said, hey, you can use this stuff. And Arizona does not. Understand you cannot charge for writing contracts. What you can charge is a transaction management fee, which is very common what we see in Florida. And so you might charge a combination of all these things. You might charge hourly, transaction fee, percentage, whatever you want to do, right? But you're going to have to add value. Now, the question in your mind is, how the heck are these buyers going to come up with the money to pay my fee? And my fee might be $50,000. It might be $20,000. It might be $1,000. It might be $500. It might be $1. All negotiable. Here's how it's going to happen. 4 parties need to get involved. Number 1, I think it's going to be HUD. Housing and Urban Development Department would come in and say, hey, look, what we want to do is create a system where the buyer's agents are going to get paid, and we're going to add that commission on top of the loan amount. And that would solve a lot of this problem, because I think what's going to happen is disproportionately affect low-income families, which is the exact opposite of what we want to have happen. We want a high percentage of ownership in the lower-income properties, and so FHA can really stand in or step in and say, hey, wait a minute, if you guys, very similar to what VA does right now with the VA funding fee. Hey, look, if you're taking a $100,000 loan, we're going to slap another X% on top of that loan for your buyer's broker fee, right? And so that would work. I think if HUD did it, Fannie and Freddie would soon follow, and so would the VA. The VA already kind of does it again with the VA funding fee, but that solves a lot of these issues that we have as far as a free market. So now you can go out in the open market and say, hey, look, I'm the best buyer's agent in Phoenix, Arizona. Why? Because I've got massive local knowledge, I'm an expert negotiator, and my transaction management is truly flawless. We have a full concierge. That is worth more in the open market than somebody that just wants to open a door, right? And so understand where you sit in that market, what your value add for that transaction is, and you'll have no issues. Because a lot of you guys are sitting behind that screen right now like, oh crap, right? Like we're gonna have some issues here in the near future if this is what happens. This will happen. It is December 16th, 2021. I guarantee, I will bet my entire career that this is the system that will need to be adopted in the near future, and that would satisfy NAR in the DOJ, more specifically, in the consumer. It's really, really good for the consumer. A lot more transparency. People know exactly what they're paying, and I think this will bring a lot of good conversation into the arena. So, if you haven't done it already, thank you for watching. I appreciate you. Take 2 seconds, like and subscribe, and maybe share if you're feeling a little bit frisky. So, thank you for tuning in. Would love to see your input. Put some comments down there and let me know what you guys think about this whole thing. And I hope to see you guys very, very soon. Thanks so much. Take care. See you.